compression test, if you're having loss of power, aerated fuel test, if you have poor fuel economy. I just recently shared a video on a Volvo hard start, and on that hard start, we had to troubleshoot some more, but that's just a common problem that we see. So we're going to be talking about that today. And if you guys got any questions, chat's going to be live. Appreciate everyone that's joining us this evening. If you guys are in the DFW area, give us a shout. 972-225-3017. I'll get a map up for you shortly, and we'll get this show started. Let me know where you're watching from. Hope everyone's being safe out there. The weather's been funny. We had a cold front hit us. Those cold fronts sometimes are good because they kind of back freight up. So that, of course, the tariff talks have kind of boosted up imports. Lunar New Year, everything that was beating Lunar New Year in. All right, let's gonna get this broadcast started. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. We're gonna start today's broadcast. We're gonna be talking about troubleshooting. I'm gonna be sharing everything that you need to know about troubleshooting, just a few common things that we see in our shop. I'm Adam with TAT Express. I've been in the industry for a few decades already. We run the shop here in Dallas, Texas. So if you're looking for service, after treatment service, light, medium, heavy duty, we work on it all. Electrical problems, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. Let's get this show started. We're gonna be talking about the importance of correct troubleshooting methods. It's very important to use a shop that uses the correct troubleshooting methods because it's gonna save you some time. Avoid maldiagnosis and reduce downtime. Okay, so if you have a problem with your truck and you prolong it, anything that's irregular that you know that's going on with it, it possibly can make the truck harder to diagnose. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. So today we're going to be talking about that. My goal in this broadcast is to educate you on the different types of techniques that we use when we troubleshoot, the different tests that we do for cylinder compression tests, cylinder cutout tests, and injector performance tests. These are all tests that we'll do with OEM software. And the reason why we use OEM software is because there's so many different tools that you're able to use to get these trucks troubleshot correctly and save you some time. And these different tests that I'm going to be discussing, the cylinder compression test, the cylinder cutoff test, and the injector performance test, this can be done without removing any tools, removing any parts or anything like that. So this is very important because whenever you're working on a semi truck, you want to avoid taking off too many parts, if unnecessary parts. If you have somebody maldiagnose your truck who do not have the right software to troubleshoot it or do proper tests before tearing it down, you're going to end up having someone just tear your truck down for no reason, and it can still have some problems afterwards. So this is why it's very important to use somebody that has that are educated and they have experience in these different troubleshooting methods that I'm going to be discussing. Guys, if you got any questions or concerns, drop it in the comments. I'm going to be having the chat live the whole time, so let me make sure chat's working. Let me throw a text. If you're watching, let me know where you're watching from. Just want to make sure chat's working and that we're focused in here. All right, chat looks like it's working. Everyone's hopefully having a good Sunday. So what are the common semi-truck engine issues that we see? I want to discuss that first. One of the main problems that we'll see is loss of power. Now, loss of power can happen in different ways. When with a diesel engine, it's very precise. The air fuel mixture has to be very precise. So if any of those two are off, whether it's air or fuel, you're going to have loss of power. So that's just pretty basic right there. It's very important to have no intake leaks, no boost leaks, no exhaust leaks. You want to make sure you're getting clean fuel into the cylinder, because as I mentioned this before, these diesel engines, these larger diesel engines, they run on thermal combustion. They don't use an igniter. They don't use a glow plug. So the air fuel mixture is got to be precise. If it's off, diesel engines will run. The really strong diesel engines are built to run. I mean, I've seen diesel engines run just on a cylinder, maybe 2 cylinders dead, and they're still running. They're not going to have power, but they're still running, and I don't recommend to continue running them. But loss of power is very common. Misfires are very common as well. So these different tests that I'm going to be discussing helps us troubleshoot these different problems that we find: excessive smoke, rough idling, or poor fuel economy. When I mention the fuel to air ratio, that's very precise. If any of this is off, it's definitely going to affect your MPGs. It's definitely going to affect power. So if you are noticing these different things, these are something that may need to be checked out. We've had a lot of guys on the views here in the chat that shared different problems that they were having, whether it was low power and stuff like that, and they had to troubleshoot injectors and stuff like that. So identifying the symptoms before diving into repairs is very important. This is why we like to notate everything as possible to understand what's going on with the truck. And we've been doing this now on people's invoices as well, so that you can actually see everything that we do in our shop. So to identify the symptoms, we have to ask the driver. The driver usually will be specific. And even with their specifics, we would still run tests. Okay, it's not. We had issues before where their drivers would come in and suggest this type of repair, and that might not be the problem. So we do listen to the symptoms, and we put them in line with what's going on. Okay, low power. All right, we're gonna check for check engine lights. If there's no check engine lights, then the basic stuff, as I mentioned, boost leaks. When's the last time the fuel filter's been replaced? Compression tests like this. There's idle balance tests on some trucks, and all these tests are very useful. So identifying the symptom is very important, guys. So if you notice the type of problem that you're having, and it's a little bit of complicated to get it over to your mechanic, just maybe write it down or record some videos to give them a better idea. There's a couple of examples that I'd like to give you on misdiagnoses, and it does cause downtime. We just recently had a truck come in, and we always ask this because diagnosing trucks that have been deleted makes it a little bit more complicated, and I'm gonna tell you why. So this particular truck had some injectors that were shown to be faulted out, and it's a DD15, and the needles were shown to be open, injectors were shorted out. We had to test the injectors, and the particular steps when you're testing the injectors for ohmage, that's how you test to see if they're still good or not. These were tested to be bad. We put the new injectors on there. Even after testing the harness looked solid. There was no excessive resistance that we could see doing the jiggle test. Not every time we're going to be able to find an issue if there is an electrical issue compared to it being on the road. Going down the road 60, 70 miles an hour. I know you guys are probably doing 80. That type of vibration on the harness is kind of hard to mimic, but either way, there was nothing going on with the harness. Later on, the driver decided to disclose that the truck was deleted, and there's a reason why we asked this is because whenever you have a truck that has modifications like deletes or hack deletes or anything like that, it does rewrite the program that's on the truck, and most of the time it's going to increase the fuel, and that's going to give you the more power that everyone that's desired is more power. But what they're not keeping in mind is when you're creating more power in that cylinder, you're creating a higher temperature, and you're pushing the engine past its design limits. So what ends up happening is you start having problems. In this particular case, the ECM was pushed past its limits. Whenever they increase the fuel, to be dumped into the cylinder, this is pushing electrical components in the ECM past their limits. They're not building these ECMs to be the stoutest ECMs out there. We all know manufacturers are manufacturing vehicles in regulation, but as cheap as possible. So they're not putting like these massive processors and these massive drivers in there that can handle these crazy tunes that people are putting on there. So what happened is it ended up burning it ended up burning some components, the drivers in the ECM as well. So what that did is it shorted out the that particular circuit, shorted out the injectors. So the ECM would need to be replaced, and since it's deleted, it would need to be reprogrammed. The truck would need to be back to factory settings. So guys, this is one of the reasons why deletes are a headache and why we don't like messing with deletes. And we always ask guys, if you have a deleted truck, it's not that we're against and we're so for CARB and so for EPA and we're so hardcore against or with for them. But the thing is, the way that these trucks are manufactured, they're manufactured to be tampered proof. They're manufactured to run through longevity wise, not high performance like a drag truck or anything like that. So when you start messing with that, it ends up causing more problems and makes it even harder to diagnose. So I just excuse me, I just wanted to share that story with you. I hope everyone's doing well, staying warm out there. The Alaska just passed through, so we're back to some spring weather. Appreciate everyone that's joined us. We got South Carolina in the house, Dallas is in the house, LA's in the house. Hope you're staying safe out there. I know there's been a lot of news about the fires. South Carolina's in the house. New Jersey, what's up, Jeff? Mario, Luis, Edwin, what's going on? Harjot at Edmonta, yo, what's going on? How you guys doing? If you guys got any questions about troubleshooting or issues on your truck, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you. We're going to continue on to the next part. The next part I want to discuss here is the importance of using the right tools and test methods. Now, at the beginning of the broadcast, when I mentioned that if you go to a shop that's not too familiar with troubleshooting these different troubleshooting procedures, what's going to happen is they're going to turn around and maldiagnose it. You're going to replace parts that are not needed. So this is why it's very important whenever you're having somebody troubleshoot it that is documented correctly. What are they doing? How did they get to this diagnosis? Why is this condemned? Now, most of the time, if maintenance has been way backed up, this is a lot of stuff that technicians want to get back up to par, which is valve adjustments, any kind of EGR coolers that haven't been cleaned. That's something that I've been sharing a lot lately. So a lot of these things that have been overlooked or been neglected are things that need to be replaced or need to be serviced and brought up to par as well. Iden says he's got loss of power on a 2021 Cascadia. It's weak. Okay, well, how many miles are on it, and when's the last time you changed the fuel filters? When we talk about doing the basic stuff, what are the basic stuff that's been done already? When's the last time the fuel filters been replaced? The mileage would be useful. When's the last time the air filters have been replaced? That's very important. If you're not getting enough air through that air filter and it's clogged up, it's going to start trying to suck air. That turbo is going to try to start sucking air in other places. Boost leaks is very common on these trucks. 2021, so I would say you have around 400,000 miles. EGR cooler. Okay, he says Francisco repaired the truck, up tubes in my truck. Y'all found a crack. Okay, good stuff. So you did bring it to our shop. Was that able to fix the loss of power? You had a up tube that we found crack. What up tube was that? And did that help your loss of power? I appreciate you sharing that. Guys, if you are in the DFW area or you're passing through Dallas, you stay on your top of your maintenance. That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. How did that repair go? Did that work for you? Do you have other issues? Do you still have low power? I run from Los Angeles to Alaska. Man, that's a big run. Guys, if you're in the DFW area, we have a viewer on now that has visited us. Give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We are just south of Dallas, so you don't have to go through the actual city. You can, very trucker friendly. There's a lot of room, big intersections. Truck stops are very close. Truck parking. Parts houses are very close as well, so we're able to get you turned around pretty quick. If the dealer is tempting to you, don't go. We can get you in and out faster than the dealer will. So give us a shout, 972-225-3017. That's a big run, man. That's a big run, Ayan. That's from Los Angeles to Alaska. That's a big run. 580,000 miles. That's some good, and you're staying on top of your maintenance. So valve adjustments has been done and your fuel filters are changed. How often? And what is your MPGs? Let me know how that repair work for you after that. You come in for a low power loss. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to keep on moving on. I'll be watching the chat the whole time. So if you got stuff to share, it only fixed the oil pressure because it wouldn't pass 28 psi. Now it stays at 50. Okay, so we replaced the oil pickup tube. So was there loss of power as well whenever you came in? Is that something that you wanted to look at as well, or you just did the oil pickup tube? Because low oil pressure like that, I'm glad that you got that fixed before any major issues happen, like a spun main bearing, and been running Alaska for 6 years now. Wow. Well, I appreciate that, man. We really appreciate. They don't make drivers like that no more. Guys that are interested in getting into the industry, there is a lot of work out there. Long hauls like this, if you want to get away from the house, if you got to get away from your mom. You can't be around your mom too long, guys. And that's mainly for the young men. I'm not trying to be sexist, but don't be around your mom too long. If you ain't got nothing going on, join the military or jump in a truck, get out on the road. Be safe out here, though. Don't drive these trucks as if they're cars. Appreciate you sharing that, man. Alaska for 6 years. That's a big run. What's your MPGs? Hopefully you can make it back by so we can fix those MPGs for you. At 500,000 miles, definitely need to adjust those valves, those overhead valves. And I'm glad that we were able to take care of you. Okay, overhead valves adjustments. All filters have been replaced, and also replaced DPF filter, but still low power. At 580,000 miles, I'm only 26 years old. Running it strong out there. Good job, man. Good job. So if you still have low power, then after doing the maintenance and everything's still running the same, 6 MPGs, how heavy are you running? How heavy are you running? Because 6 MPGs loaded is not terrible. And did you have a lot of power beforehand, or is this the first truck that you're in and you don't feel like it has power? Because some of these trucks, the DD15 is not built to be like some powerhouse. It's built to be a longevity engine, so it's going to last you a really long time. So some of that hot rod power might not be there depending on how heavy you're running. What are you running? It's interesting to know what you're running. 6 MPGs, you can probably get up a little bit, maybe 7. I would do a boost pressure test if we have not did a boost leak test. If you didn't notice any kind of low power, any kind of power change, then this might be something else that we need to be looking into. Hopefully it's not any low performance injectors or anything like that. But I appreciate you sharing that. Keep on sharing the information on how heavy you're running. El Paso's in the house. I have a 2020 Cascadia that does not allow a relative compression test. There's a message that says starter blocked. The truck keeps cranking on and doing the test, overheating the starters. Okay, so it sounds like you have an issue with the communication to the starter, because what's going to happen is there should be a cutoff switch for the starter to prevent it from burning up. Has any kind of modifications been on that truck? Have there been any deletes on that truck? And the reason why I ask is because a lot of times when these deletes get done, these deletes will eliminate a lot of the tests that are able to be performed. So it hasn't been deleted, and that's the only reason why I ask. My first truck, I'm always climbing mountains in Alaska, about 15,000 to 30,000 pounds. Okay, so you're not running too heavy. Mountainous is that's very challenging for the truck. You could do boost pressure tests and compression tests. Injector performance test on DD15 is what I like. It's a really good test that we perform. And if everything's checking out good with that, and you're still feel like you have low power and you want to climb it up even more, then we can look into something else. There's not too much probably more you're going to be. My question is that can a fuel pump cause low power? Francisco replaced bearings and oil pump on it as well. Okay. Well, the fuel pump can cause low power, but you're going to get check engine lights that you're not getting enough fuel rail pressure. So if you're not getting any check engine lights, then all right, you're planning on coming through in a couple weeks. All right, we'll be looking forward to seeing you. So if your concern is a fuel pump and you're replacing your fuel filters, did the low power happen after your fueling up in certain areas? Because If you get bad fuel, that can cause low power. If you have dirty fuel, that can cause low power. But having a fuel pump cause a low power can as well, but it should throw a fault. It should throw a fault light. It would say something as like the common rail pressure is not at desired pressure. So that's definitely something that to look into. So if it's not fuel pressure, then I would cancel out a fuel pump. But if it is fuel pressure, you should have a check engine light. Driver replaces starter on the road, no deletes, truck has no codes. I would definitely check to see if that starter is the correct OEM starter. Some of these people on the road, they will just swap starters out. Some of these starters do have the overheating switch that needs to be plugged in. So if the ECM is programmed to monitor that and is not plugged in, then it could just keep going until it doesn't know that the starter is overheating. So if the starter had just been replaced on the road, double check to see if that starter is the right starter. There's different style starters that go on all these trucks. They all do the same work and they will bolt up, but some of them can have some problems. So ECM readers, importance of using the right tools. Appreciates everybody's questions. Let me get a drink of water. Music had to stop right in the middle of drinking water, huh? So we're going to talk about using the right tools. So compression test here, very important. Older engines, you had to take stuff apart, and some DD15 will still call for a manual compression test. There is a lot more work that goes into a manual compression test, and not all the time manual compression tests are accurate. I feel like these tests are a little bit more accurate. Here's another compression test that's done by the DD15, done with Detroit. This compression test here, as you can see, cylinder number 6 is low. Anything that's 15% difference, well, you can see cylinder number 4, cylinder number 6. Now, I don't think adjusting the valves will bring this compression up. It possibly can. Definitely when you do these types of tests, you want to make sure that your batteries are charged up all the way, because low batteries can cause a false reading as well. So make sure to run these types of tests. We always run them multiple times, and you listen to how strong the truck is cranking. If it's cranking really weak, these types of tests are going to not come up accurate. But this is the importance of using the right tools. Keep on going here. This is why it's important to use the right tools. Now you can use ECM readers, you can use like scanners, but you're not going to be able to do like compression tests like this. But you are going to be able to get codes, and those codes do help. Pressure gauges are useful as well if you have an older engine that needs to have a test done with a gauge. You can do like a leak down test on the cylinder, but that's taking more components apart. And with testing injectors, these newer style injectors, you're not going to be able to bench test them. You're going to be able to just use the computer to test the performance on them, and then you're going to just test the ohmage on them with voltmeters or ohm meters. We use a lot of diagnostic flow charts. These are very important to use, guys. This is why, if you have a shop that's not familiar with diagnosing and they're not using flow charts, now that's really risky, because not using flow charts will definitely cause you to overlook different items. These flow charts are designed to not overlook anything. For example, there's a flow chart for a DD15 that always requests that you check after treatment codes and that you check the after treatment. It's a after treatment performance test to ensure everything's working correctly. And even with Volvo, before you perform any kind of diagnosing procedures, there's a performance test that you use as well there. And with that performance test, what that's going to do is going to just help you kind of check any sensors, make sure all your sensors are reading correctly. I just recently shared a video about a differential pressure sensor port that could be clogged up. So those types of tests can be done with computers, so that you can kind of see, oh, I got low flow here, EGR is not open correctly, this is not reading correctly, temperature is not correct here. This is why it's important to use these types of tools, and also follow flowcharts, because flowcharts are going to help you from overlooking anything. Appreciate everyone that's joined us. Make sure to hit that like button. Guys, if you're in the DFW area and you're looking for service, we're doing a promotion, TAT 25. You get 10% off your service. So make sure to use TAT 25 and mention the broadcast, and you'll get 10% off coming into the shop. So give us a shout. Somebody in the comments got a fault code on Detroit. He says it's 436417. Diesel particulate filter soot level is high. Okay, so that's going to be definitely in line with low power. If you said you already had you had the filter replaced or you had it cleaned. Let me check. What'd you say? Replace the DPF filter. So when you replace the DPF filter and you still notice low power at 500 plus thousand miles, it's possible that you can have a clogged DOC. So what we would need to do is still run a regen, especially if you're having a DPF code. That particular DPF code that's coming up means high soot load. So are you idling the truck a lot? It sounds like you're running it a lot, extensively. Appreciate that feedback there. I like the background music. It kind of keeps me going. So anyway, if you're idling a lot and you're running up to Alaska, man, that's a lot of load on that truck. So sometimes what I also see here is you're only running 15,000 to 30,000 pounds. You know, when you run 15,000 pounds, that's not really loading the truck down. I wouldn't go anything under 30,000 pounds, because especially when you're running a long distance, that truck needs to be loaded at 80%, at least 80% when you're running long distance. If you're not loading the truck at 80% for long distance trips, then you can have excessive soot buildup and start having these problems. What happens is the engine will build up excessive soot in the DPF, and it won't allow you to get all the power that you want, because it's going to end up causing just more back pressure and can cause some problems. So that 15,000 pounds, how often do you pull 15,000 pounds? Thanks for mentioning this in the chat. Let me see here. You never idle. I purchased 2 reman DPFs. Okay. Do I have anybody in Los Angeles that I can recommend? Mario, I wish we did. I want to get out there to California as well. We're trying to expand out to Florida. I'm sorry, we're trying to expand out to Houston first. I'd rather silver and negative 30 degrees weather than idle and damage everything. Dang, you in negative 30 degree weather, you're not idling? How whoa, that's pretty cold weather, man. How are you doing it? When I'm climbing mountains empty with the step deck, it feels like I'm loaded and it's no power. So when you're not loaded, it's possible that since you've already started having these DPF codes, that either your DOC's clogged up or one of your sensors may not be reading correctly. Definitely, what I would definitely do is run a regen and monitor the sensors and monitor your pressure, just to ensure everything's reading correctly. I carry a small radioactive loads. They are usually small. Okay, so they're usually small loads. Definitely need to load the truck at least 80,000 pounds. I'm sorry, 80%. When you're running a truck with after treatment system, it says in the manuals that truck needs to be run at least 80% of what it's designed to. So if you're doing that, running empty, that could cause excessive soot. You may have to run it forced regens to bring that soot level down. When you run forced regens, get some eyes out there and look to see if you see any exhaust leaks. And if that's the only fault that you're getting is excessive soot load, Is it allowing you to do park regens to burn off the accumulated soot? Like I mentioned, we need to check the DPF status with the software to make sure that the load percentage is reading correctly. It shouldn't be nearing full capacity, so it's possible a sensor could be bad if we didn't replace all the sensors. Do you have any additional fault codes that might indicate sensors or anything like that? Temperature sensors, something like that, DPF, inlet sensors, pressure sensors, anything like that, dozers. Sometimes dozers can get clogged up as well and won't allow you to do an active regen and cook that excessive soot off. So with the software, it's going to help us read the differential pressure sensor and make sure that that's accurate, because your differential pressure sensor is what's reading to see if that DPF filter is actually full or not. If it's not full and you maybe have some tubes that are leaking or something that didn't seal correctly, something that might be reading correctly, it's going to say that soot level is high, and it actually isn't. So your driving patterns, you said you're running all the way from LA to Alaska, so it wouldn't be short trips. Are you able to do passive regenerations where you're doing regens on the road? Force regens are very important as well if you're not able to get active regens on the road. So you avoid park regens but no other codes. Has it asked you to regen? If the soot remains high after a park regen, it could be something going on with the DOC or something with the DPF, but definitely we need to check to see if it's reading correctly and it's not sensors or a faulty dozer. Sometimes those dozers can get clogged up. The fuel dozer is right behind the turbo. It's some of them Volvo calls it the 7th injector, but everybody else calls it dozer or diffuser fuel. So those things can get clogged up as well, where it's not delivering enough fuel behind the the turbo, and that's why it's important to use software so that the software can give us a real-time view of what the temperatures look like. So you're doing good with preventive maintenance. You already changed out your filters. You did change it out close to 500,000 miles. If you just got the truck, what was the history of the truck? Was it idled a lot? How was it ran? Sounds like you're using it pretty heavy. So you make sure to use high quality fuel. You're saying you're moving up to Alaska. How's the fuel? You're running up to Alaska. How's the fuel? Are you crossing into? So you're going through Canada, getting up to Alaska, man. That's how long of a trip is that? So just monitor your regen cycles. Respond promptly to your indicators. Try to get your regens done if it's not doing it. If you still need a little bit more help, then it could be looking into the EGR turbo, or some sensors may be required. So give us a shout. Hopefully that information that I just shared with you helped. We got a super chat from Sweet Willie. What are my shop rates? Our shop rates vary. So from different jobs, they vary from different jobs. So whatever you're looking at getting done, what we'll do is when you come in, if you're doing a valve adjustment, for example, usually around $500-600, maybe a little bit more if you need gaskets. We're running a discount right now, so take advantage of that. TAT 25, 10% off. So stuff like that is already set in place. PMs, we can work with you if you do packages, if you start doing multiple things, if we find different things. But what we'll do is, if you come in for a valve adjustment, we'll do a free digital inspection. That's the first thing that we do. That's us checking throughout the whole truck. We're able to lift the truck off the ground. We have lifts at the shop so the techs can be comfortable enough to look over everything under the truck and not overlook things, because some trucks are really tight to get up under. So we'll lift the truck, do a full inspection, send that inspection report to you via phone with photos, give you recommendations on things that need to be done, and then we just go from there. If things that you want to go ahead and do already, if you want to wait, you can wait on that. We can schedule you for your next time. But major stuff needs to get done. The maintenance stuff needs to get done, Sweet Willie. So if you got any major problems, like something major concerns, just come on in. We're very transparent, so we're not going to bring your truck in and just do your work and then charge you for it. We're transparent about every step. We try to avoid anything that's going to be more costly. But understand, if you have high mileage trucks, anything that's over 500,000 miles, these trucks have not been disassembled since the assembly line. or they'd never been disassembled. They were assembled on assembly line, put in. So around 500,000 miles, if you start having issues and we have to get components, and not every component is accessible. EGR cooler is not accessible. EGR cooler is not accessible. Wow, appreciate that, man. I appreciate that super chat. I got the $100 super chat. Crazy, man. I appreciate that, Sweet Willie. That wasn't from Sweet Willie. That was from Aya Alkan. I'm sorry if I messed that up, but he just did a super chat of $100. I appreciate that. And he says, telling you, Sweet Willie, he's telling you he highly recommends our shop. Dude, I really do. I stress out. You don't know how much I stress out trying to ensure that everything is looked over correctly in the shop. And I try not to put too much pressure on the men, because I know how hard it is to work in the shop. And I don't want these guys, I don't want no one to be overlooked. I want to ensure that everyone's being looked at correctly. I don't want to put too much pressure on the technicians, but at the same time, they have to understand that we are held up at very high standards, because everything that I share with you guys, this is what I want you to expect when you come in to see that. So, man, I really appreciate that super chat, man. That's probably the best Christmas present that I got all this year, man. I really appreciate that. And Willie, if you got any more, if you got any more doubts about checking us out, check us out, man. Check us out. I really appreciate that super chat. Thanks again, man. He says here, and what, I got a couple of stuff. It looks like I passed up a lot of comments here. That only one came on. It says, no, I avoid park regions. Dash is always clean from lights except one. I replaced the DEF line along with the DEF dozer last week. Okay, so that definitely can cause you some low power issues. What's gonna end up causing is some derates. Did you have any issues with running derates? I smell the regen when it's driving. That's gonna be your DEF burning. When you replace that DEF dozer, did they inspect it to ensure that you didn't have crystallization in there? If you have too much crystallization, I noticed the DEF smell is stronger. So if you have what that is if it's dumping too much DEF, or depending on what one box system you have, you might have to put an awning in there, which kind of catches the mist so it doesn't spray incorrectly. And what happens is it's going to avoid that buildup from happening. So if you smell that DEF, it's possible you have excessive buildup. But I forgot to mention, I replaced the DPF filter because I got a code for ash cleaning required. So instead of cleaning the filters, I just replaced them. Takes 3 days going and 3 days going down. Oh wow, that's a big trip, man. 3 days, 700 miles a day. What is that? 1,500 miles. 15? Is that more than 1,500 miles? 1,600 miles? Is Lucas PDF Deer Clean Safe? Well, I haven't looked at that. What is that? Is that a fuel additive for your? If it's a fuel additive to help lubricate and keep your diesel clean, that's not bad to do. I would just be careful with anything that's going to be added to the oil, that's going to be either thickening the oil, because especially with this cold season, you don't want a hard start. Anytime a hard start happens, you have cold oil that's trying to make it up to the rockers, and that definitely can cause some problems, especially if it's trying to make it to the oil coolers, the oil cooler and piston oil coolers as well. The piston coolers that spray oil onto the cylinders to make sure that they're lubricated. So if you're putting any kind of additive that thickens the oil, you can risk those cylinders not being fully lubricated during cold starts, and you can definitely cause some problems. So keep that in mind, Mario. I really want you guys to clean my entire EGR system and check out my DLC filter. Definitely we can the test that I've mentioned with the triple DL, it's very useful. We can check the EGR system. We just had a broadcast about this where you're removing the hot pipe, and I recommend you guys do this at least once a year. If you're already at 500,000 miles and you haven't removed this hot pipe, I got an image of here in the background. This hot pipe here, let me close these out. So this hot pipe here is what feeds the EGR cooler. It's a very easy component to remove. You remove this component, get some eyes on the EGR cooler to see if it's clogged up. If it is clogged up, then I would recommend getting it clean. If 500,000 miles and above, they'll usually start getting a little bit beefed up. So definitely appreciate that. We can definitely help you out there. And make sure to mention when you go into the shop that you've watched the live TAT 25. You get 10% off in your next visit. And I'll really appreciate that super chat. We'll definitely be looking out for you when you come in. We'll be looking out for you soon. He says, I have a team driver, so we push 1,200 miles a day. Wow. So yeah, you're definitely going to have to step up that maintenance even more. I know you said you're on top of this maintenance, and with a team running 1,500 miles a day, you're really pushing that engine. So definitely keep up with the fuel filter replacement, air filter replacements. If your DPF is asking to be regen, you may have to regen that. Hopefully that DOC is not cooked already. If you're running it that pretty hard, the DOC, I don't like that the DOC is made onto the one box system. That's one thing that I don't know why Detroit did that. A lot of the manufacturers are going to the one box system, and this one box system has the DOC, which is the filter. It's basic. It's the same material as the DOC. It's ceramic. It's a ceramic honeycomb filter, but this one is made into the one box, so you can't remove that and replace it. But that is what gets exposed to the exhaust gases first, and then it goes to the DOC. So to me, I would think a DOC would get clogged up quicker. Some of the older models had the DOC separate so that you can get them both replaced. I don't know why the one box is like that. But what I'm thinking, if you're running that truck this hard, it's possible that one box might be acting up on you, and you may have to replace the one box because they have the DOCs on there. But the good thing is you're already halfway there. You already replaced the DPF filter, so those DPF filters are still good. Anytime you replace a one box, you still have to purchase the DPF filters. And at 500,000 miles, especially how hard you're running that truck, that a one box system usually will last longer than that. I would say I see them usually around 700. Usually closer to 700,000 miles. But trucks that are really under extreme condition, which this one sounds like it's under extreme condition, it's possible that one box need to be replaced. But there's tests that can be done. I don't want to condemn the one box right away. Definitely do tests and troubleshooting. This is why I highlight the importance of troubleshooting, using troubleshooting procedures, using troubleshooting tools, troubleshooting fault code trees. All these different things need to be looked at, because they definitely will help you pinpoint what's going on with the truck. So I wouldn't condemn the one box right away, but just from what you're telling me, it sounds to me that you might have a one box issue going on, but we can definitely test everything out before condemning it. Appreciate you. I appreciate that, man. I really do appreciate that. I honestly, man, that's the best Christmas present that I got this year, man. You just made my year. Appreciate that. We've got another code coming up here. It's another fault code. Sweet Willie says, I have a fault code SPN 4364 FMI 17. Okay, so that particular code is that a DD15. That's another soot level fault. Okay, you have high soot level detected. Now, preventive maintenance is going to be your best options to avoid these DPF issues. What we've been adding onto our PM services is doing a DPF performance test, and what we'll do is a regen, and we're looking at all the different parameters. There's different things that need to happen in those one boxes. There's so many different sensors that are being checked. I counted one of them. There's about 8 or 9 sensors on the one box. So these one box sensors can go bad. They're not going to last a million miles, and most of the time, though, the sensors are what starts causing the problems first. And then it starts kind of dominoing and start having some problems. So Sweet Willie, that right there, what you have there is a diesel particulate filter soot level high. It says the conditions are high, soot level shows to be detected high. This fault means that the ECM has detected excessive soot accumulating in the DPF, is what I mentioned, requiring immediate action to avoid derating or further action. So, wow. If it ain't TAT Express, I don't want it. Man, are you serious, man? Are you serious? Man, That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Man, I appreciate that, man. I'm speechless. I'm speechless, man. That's another generous donation there in chat, man. I really appreciate that, man. Wow. Man, I don't even know what to say about that, man. That's the biggest donation that I've had doing these lives, man. I really do. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, man. I appreciate that, man. That's really solid of you. That's really solid of you, man. And you know, I do my best to try to get back to you guys as well, man, with all this information, and I try to save you guys headaches and time. So I really appreciate that, man. I can't believe that, man. I can't. If you guys can't see that, that's a $200 super chat. We're gonna definitely keep the work up, the quality, man. We're on it all day, every day. We're adjusting our standard SOPs. We're monitoring our SOPs, software updates, everything. We work hard, and I think everybody up there at our shop, because everyone up there are professionals. We went through the time of starting the shop and growing. We've went through a lot of different mechanics, and there was a lot of good mechanics out there. But the guys that are around and that are lasted, these guys are professionals, man. They are solid professionals, man. I'm not saying mechanic is a bad word, but they deserve the word. They deserve the title technicians, because that's what they are. They take pride in their work. You can see what they do. We try to do our best to present a lot of present professionalism, and we monitor how everything is working. So we really work hard to build a good morale for you guys, comfortable morale, and keep on pushing, man, because these past especially with a lot of the freight that's moving currently, we're really excited about it. So I really appreciate that help. Trucker Life says, do yourself a favor, guys and gals. Just clean them once a year, and you almost never have issues with regens. When you wait until manufacturer recommendations 500K, by then they're super dirty. I appreciate you mentioning that, Trucker Life. So you're right. At 500,000 miles is when the recommendation is to replace the filters. They don't even want you to clean them no more. But Trucker Life says if you already had them clean, or if you had them replaced, do it once a year, which is very good practice. I know it seems like a lot, but all this preventive maintenance, you're investing in your vehicle, you can definitely schedule this so that when it comes in, you're definitely gonna have some you're definitely gonna have some payback, because you won't have this downtime. So Trucker Life, you're right, man. If you have some clean filters, clean them once a year. Also getting some eyes on that EGR cooler. I always appreciate your feedback in there and your input there, Trucker Life. Appreciate that, man. Always good stuff. Sweet Willie says he has 435,000 miles. So around that on the DD15, you are needing a few things. Overhead valve adjustment. The filters may need to be replaced depending on how you've been running it. If you're idling a lot. Optimum idle cycles, optimum duty cycles are what the manufacturers have released, so that they can let us know and educate us know what these engines are designed, or how these engines are designed. This is why I mentioned making sure that the truck is loaded 80%, at least 80% loaded, most of the time while it's on the highway, not idling. That's why it has the shut off idle. So that definitely are things that need to be kept in mind, Sweet Willie, because when you start over idling and not running in these optimal duty cycles, you're definitely going to start causing more soot buildup. If you're not replacing, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, this is what I'm mentioning. If you're not doing oil changes, if you're not doing air filters, depending on where you're running, if it's in dusty areas, you can be creating excessive soot, causing that filter to build up. So 400,000 miles, it's already showing that you have excessive soot buildup. I would recommend replacing the filter. If you don't want to replace the filter, at least come in and we can do a park regen, and monitor with diagnostic software. This is why I mentioned it's very important. And we can monitor the different temperatures and back pressures. If the back pressure is out of specs, then that's when we would move forward with the filter. But I'm just kind of letting you know that's the stuff to expect. So it's very important to check your differential pressure sensors and make sure that they're reading correctly. That's something that I just posted recently. the differential pressure sensors. You have one on your EGR valve. You have one on your DPF that monitors the soot level. So checking those, replacing those are very important. Do your force regens if you are able to do force regens. Monitor the soot level, temperatures, pressure during the process. Check for leaks, clogs, or damages on the after treatment systems, the DOC, the DPF, the exhaust system. You'll see a bunch of soot. If the DPF is plugged or damaged, you got to remove it and replace it. We got to look at that dozer as well. That dozer that injects fuel behind the turbo is what does the regeneration. If that's clogged up, you're not reaching temperature, and you definitely can cause some regen problems. Now, these systems may seem complicated, guys. They may seem complicated, but I'm just sharing all this information, educating you guys on it, because it's really not that complicated. It's just a box catching the soot, and with multiple sensors on there. And over time, those sensors are going to go bad. The soot's going to build up. And to avoid that, okay, let's not idle. Let's try to run in optimal duty cycles. I did videos on this, so definitely check those out. EGR system needs to be checked out as well. Turbochargers, those turbochargers will give you some issues as well. Sweet Willie's still in the house. Appreciate you helping. What else you got? I used to live in Pleasant Grove, so I will bring my truck by your shop when I get home in a few weeks. I appreciate that, man. You be safe out there, man. I know that weather out there has been pretty crazy, so you guys make sure to watch your weather maps and look out. I know that those loads are hot, but sometimes it can be very dangerous out there, guys. But I know most of you guys can handle it. That's what we're out here. Back in the day, they used to run stuff in horses, man. You know how long it used to take them? And being out there and getting shit done is not bad, man. Some of these younger guys, they don't like getting out there and making stuff happen. You know, I mean, what are you gonna do? Stay at home and play video games? I mean, some of these trucks you can put a video game in there and do it on your downtime if video games are that important to you. A lot of these trucks are, these companies are still looking for drivers, guys. They're still looking for drivers. There was a lot of people that exited the market during the past couple of years because of the difference of freight whenever everybody did jump in. If you guys didn't know about that, after the pandemic, they dumped a lot of money in to the economy, and a lot of people jumped in. And then it kind of dried up. The rates kind of went low. So a lot of people exited. People merged. Yellow disposed and got bought out. So now it's kind of picking back up again because there's less trucks. There's not enough trucks. You can see it at the dealers. There's a lot of trucks going. Well, Michael, I appreciate you saying that, man. What's your experience in that? Where else would you try to put your time, or where else would you have liked to put your time? And I mentioned compared to someone that's not doing anything at all. So, Michael, I appreciate your feedback. Your input. But everyone has different perspectives. Some people like to get away. Some people would like to get away from the house and be out there on their own. It's been like that since the beginning of mankind. Man did like to get out on a lone horse and just travel out there. Why not get paid for it? And I mean, this equipment nowadays is pretty stout, man. The equipment's out here is pretty stout. There's really nice trucks out here. But I appreciate your feedback. I know that maybe other drivers probably could have made it a little bit nicer for you. That I drove OTR for a couple of years, and I'm a diesel tech now. Okay, so appreciate you sharing that. So maybe working on the trucks is a little bit better, or is a little bit easier for you. And some people can't work on them. Some people don't have the patience to work on these trucks. It takes a lot of patience to work on trucks. You think it's just busting up some bolts and getting parts off and putting new parts on. It's not always that easy. It takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of skill. You're not always in a comfortable position. Bernie, I really appreciate you backing that up, because it's not. Trucking is pretty much the real America. If you think that you know America, you don't know America until you get into knowing truckers, because those are the real Americans. Those are the ones moving America. Those are the ones that are dealing with the shippers. They're dealing with the receivers. They're dealing with the demand of the products being there so that the consumers can have everything that they want on the shelf. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes into driving, and there's a lot of responsibility into being diesel technicians, because we don't want issues to happen. We want you to be on the road safe. We know how long the trips are. You're not taking You're not taking a stroll or a little drive just down the street. You're going to Alaska. You're going to California. You're going across the state. So that's why not only do we do courtesy inspections, free courtesy inspections at the end of every service, we do a quality control inspection. Now, what this inspection requires us, it's a whole separate process. It's a whole separate list of standard operating procedures that has the technician go over everything again, ensure that no codes are coming back up, test drive it as much as we can, idle it as much as you can, regens, fuel system checks, everything. We try to make sure everything is to the T before you get that truck back on the road. Not every time can we catch every single thing, but we do our best, and we notate everything so that if it seemed like it was overlooked, give us a shout. We'll communicate with you. That's why we do the pictures. Everything's on file. Everything's in our system, so we can pull everything back up. And this is why we're very transparent about everyone we work with. So appreciate everyone that's joined us. Bernie says trucking isn't a waste of life. There's so many different things you can do with that time. Definitely. One thing you can do, Bernie, and I appreciate you saying that, since these long drives are going for such, you're on the road for a long time. Audio books are very, very useful, man. I don't think we read enough. There's people we don't read enough. I know it's not fun to read. We always want to listen to entertaining information. But audio books are very powerful. Maybe something that you're interested in, something that you might be thinking about, maybe something that you're struggling with. Look it up. Look up a good book about something you might be struggling with, or something that you were interested in learning, and listen to those books while you're driving. You might need to listen to them a couple times. There's a book that I just recently revisited, and it's let me give you the title, and nobody's sponsoring it. But it's a decent book. I'm not saying I follow everything that books say, but this one says The Way of the Superior Man. This is a 20th series edition. It's a really good book. It's a really good book. It talks about us always wanting purpose as men, and that's what we're built for. And that's why a lot of times when we're doing stuff, even though it doesn't feel like we want to be doing it, it does feel it is what we're meant to be doing, even. Because if you're not doing anything, you even feel worse than actually taking action. So those are stuff that are really interesting in that book, and it talks about just different things that I find interesting as well. So Bernie, appreciate you sharing that, man. Yeah, trucking is not, and you meet a lot of different people. You see a lot on the road. You learn a lot. Being by yourself is not hard to do. Not a lot of people are used to that. Some people cannot survive by themselves, but I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist, but we're men. We can survive. We survived since mankind. So yes, sir. I moved here from Palestine. Oh, appreciate you joining us. XRT Transport. That looks like the same. Wasn't that the same? Did you change the name? Let me see here. That's the same logo. I thought that's the same one that did the super chat. Bernie also says trucking saved and changed his life. Man, I really appreciate you sharing that. Michael made his comment about how he felt about trucking, and that just goes to show we had Bernie says that it saved his life and changed his life. Bernie, that's really, you listen to some audio books. That's some good stuff. Thanks for I changed the name. Yeah, XTR Transport. Thanks for changing. Thanks for clarifying that. I didn't know what happened there. So you came in from Palestine. I appreciate that. In 2004, and definitely learn what America is. Yeah, it's very very cutthroat, man. Hopefully you've had a good experience. I'm not saying America's a beautiful place. I love this place. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And everyone that's come in from other countries actually push harder than the ones that were here. Americans are like that. They're born here. They've been given everything, free schooling, and the thing about giving stuff away like this is not appreciated. So Americans have really shown that. They've really shown the unappreciation of what they have, And then we fight about who's coming into our country that want to work hard, that want to make a difference. And we fight hard about that. And I brought this discussion up with someone that was, and I don't mean to be off subject so much. I'll try to return back on subject, but I'll say this on the last thing. I had a discussion with someone that was about immigration, and it was about how in, I would say 2 decades, maybe 2 or 3 more decades, there's not going to be enough humans because nobody's reproducing. There's not enough people reproducing children. So I would say 20, 30 years from now, there's not going to be enough humans. There's not going to be enough people wanting to do the stuff that needs to be done, the manual stuff. And there's going to actually be a fight for labor. There's going to be countries fighting for other people's population. We're not there yet. You know, for some reason, everybody thinks we're so overpopulated, but I don't think that's the case. We might be overpopulated in some areas like cities, but in all, I don't think we're overpopulated. How much to replace the DPF filter? An estimate? Give me a shout. 972-225-3017. Give us a shout tomorrow. We'll open up in the morning. We'll give you an estimate on everything that you need done. So appreciate that. 972-225-3017. Here's our information in the back right here. I'll make sure to add our stuff in the description as well at the end of our broadcast. Give us a shout, man. I'll definitely be able to help you out. XTOTX Transport, I want to thank you again for joining us. Let me see what else. Sweet Willie here. Trucking Lights says to Sweet Willie, unless you are deleted, but if you aren't, your truck is definitely regenning. When you are in zone 1 active regen, no lights will show up on the dash. It's doing regen in the background. Okay. We're not saying delete it, but Sweet Willie says, I don't have it delete. I just never done one manually, but I'm at 435,000 miles. So maybe it's just time to have it replaced. If you're not having DPF lights, you do have a DPF light, do a force regen to see if it's going to make that code go away. If not, then I would suggest you come in, Sweet Willie, and make sure you guys use the code TAT25. So that's TAT, the year 25. You get 10% discount, and we'll hook you up. OTX, I got you already, man. Make sure to tell Francisco about this live, and I'll definitely make sure you get taken care of up there. I really appreciate that. Making my Christmas, man, even though it's a little bit past. Really better late than never. Sweet Willie, give us a shout, man. We'll definitely take care of you. I can give you prices on just the DPF filters. Now they're doing some stuff where I just saw a video where they're trying to clean the filters on the truck, if more than just a regen. But I don't suggest putting any solution if the filters are already cleaned up. If you're gonna start using solutions, definitely use them after a nice clean filter, because if you're gonna use some solution and you already got it caked up, you definitely can have some problems. He says that's good. That means your truck is doing it while you're in drive 1 zone. The only time you will need to see the light on the dash is when the gas it gets interrupted. So yeah, he's saying, appreciate that, XTO. We'll definitely look out for you. Tugging Life says it sounds like you're doing an active regen. I agree. It does sound like you're doing an active regen. So I wouldn't say that you're having too many problems there. But that's the importance of having the correct troubleshooting tools. When you're doing an active regen, you definitely want to look at all these readings. So other things that I wanted to discuss is cylinder compression test. The cylinder compression test is a very solid test to run as well. Anytime you have issues with low power, oil consumption, stuff like that, cylinder compression tests are really good to use. And this is what I had here on the display here. Let me go back to that. Let me see here. Replace turbo, 1 million. All right. It's not what I wanted to bring up. Boom. Compression test. Here's a compression test here. These are the images I just shared earlier. Now this is going to allow us to do tests without removing any components, so it's very useful. We use it as our diagnostic procedures as well. Nothing like a 6NZ cat. That DPF is something else. Them things stay in the shop all over the country. Well, what I notice, if they're not ran properly, definitely you can have DPF problems, especially after 500,000 miles. As I mentioned, sensors go bad. you can definitely have some problems. So I appreciate that comment. So when you're doing compression tests, as I mentioned, usually you can do them with the computer. Cutoff tests as well are also useful. The cutoff test helps us isolate cylinders to find weak ones or misfiring ones. If we have a cylinder that's misfiring and we cut it out, like if we have a cylinder 1 that's misfiring and we notice it in the misfire and we go to cut that one off and it's still the same, those types of tests will let us know, okay, well, that cylinder is dead. Even if we turn it off and on, there's no difference. So those tests will help us as well. That's why we use ECM software, and these are the different methods of troubleshooting. So this is what anything that kind of impacts a weak cylinder. Can be a scuffed cylinder. It can be a lot of different things, whether it's a dirty air filter and you have scuff liners, you have a burnt valve, dirty built up valve, bad valves on the head. Those types of things can cause cylinder wear. Also, the piston rings can get worn. Those are things that happen at high mileage. The performance test is really, injector performance test is really for the high pressure fuel systems. Now that everything's going high pressure, with a fuel pressure test or a injector performance test, what you're able to do is put these injectors in operating conditions where you're going to be able to bring the PSIs at high as what they would be as if they're running loads, and this is where you're able to see issues. Also, whenever you shut down the engine, the pressure should still be high, and it's going to leak down, but it's going to leak down slowly. Those are things that we look for as well. If you have something that leaks down quickly, then that's an indication of a issue with a leaking injector. On ISXs, their performance tests are a little bit more extent. They really rev up the engine and they really put loads on each injector to kind of give you an idea of what the performance looks like, and it gives you a actual reading. So there's a lot of common problems, and when it comes to troubleshooting, the common problems that we see is what I see is skipping steps. When I talk about following troubleshooting steps, troubleshooting trees, it's very important not to skip steps. We talk about it all the time in our shop. SOPs, standard operating procedures, are put in place that nothing gets overlooked. It's impossible for a technician that looks at so many trucks a day, maybe troubleshooting 3 or 4 trucks a day, to remember every step. They may become familiar if it's the same fault code over and over and over. But if you're dealing with different fault codes, we deal with a lot of different faults in our shop. So definitely skipping steps is something that we see often. Ignoring test results. Just because you run a test, understand the results. When you're doing a regen, understand what you need to be looking for. Understand how the system's working, so that you can read and get an accurate reading of what's going on. So this is what we see as well. I see common mistakes there. Replacing parts without verification. We always want to condemn a part. Before we condemn a part, it needs to be valid. It needs to be in black and white on why this part is bad. I know it may take some time to prove it, but this is what we do. We want to prove what is a problem. How did it happen? As I mentioned to you earlier, we had an injector issue that burned up. Later on, we found out the ECM was over-tuned, that burned drivers on the ECM, and so it burned the injectors and the ECM. So troubleshooting happens, and it can be when troubleshooting happens, it can be complicated if something's not shared completely. At the beginning, this truck wasn't shared, so before the injectors were even replaced, we verified them. There's test procedures to verify if injectors are bad. In some cases, if we have a job for injector cups and the injector bore where the new cups are going to go in are worn, and that means that the whole head needs to be replaced. Not every time the customer is going to want to do such a large repair, because a head replacement is a lot larger than just replacing injector cups. So we understand that cost can be an issue sometimes. So that's the importance. When I mentioned earlier being patient, it takes a lot of patience. Just like it takes patience driving a truck, it takes patience to work on these trucks and troubleshoot them. So combining tests, combining this test and to get clearer pictures of what the engine health looks like is what we do when we troubleshoot trucks. So these are tips that I want to share with you. Let me know if you had any troubleshooting mistakes and lessons you learned with troubleshooting, because it can happen. It can happen. Guys, if you got any more additional questions, let me know in the chat. And guys, I hope you guys were able to take something from today's broadcast. And if you guys got any specific things that you'd like us to discuss before we take off, appreciate you, Pop Tart. I've been watching you, I know, over half a decade now. Man, thank you. Thank you, Pop Tart. I'm a Detroit Series 60 girl. All right, thank you, girl. I'm a Series 60 Detroit girl because they are just cheapest ones to work in parts and ready available anywhere in the country. But I run everything from the new plastic trucks and the Packard to the old iron Yelp. Yep. So the Series 60 is a good engine. It's still out there. It's a very strong engine. They don't build them like that no more. They do build up some soot on there. I don't know what your MPGs are. I'm not against that engine. It's a really good engine. DD15 is what replaced it. These engines are a little bit more quieter, and they're supposed to last a little bit longer before any major overhauls, especially the newer series, or the new generation. So appreciate you joining us, Pop Tart. Again, OTX Transport, thanks again for joining us. Bernie, thank you for your input. Michael, thank you for joining us. Trucking Life, like always. Sweet Willie, come check us out. Hope that don't sound too crazy. Trucking Life, it was in the house as well. Appreciate everyone that's joined us. Mario, everyone that's joined us this evening, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to be doing more broadcasts. Let me know what you guys would like to talk about. I hope you're able to bring something or take something from today's broadcast. If you're in the DFW area and you're looking for service, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We're doing a promotion, TAT 25 for 10% discount on your next service. Give us a shout, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to help you out. We got express service. OTX, man, I want to shout out to OTX again for that generous donation. We got you. We're gonna get you looked out next time, and definitely mention this broadcast, and we'll definitely get you taken care of. Guys, be safe out there. Be warm. Check the road conditions, and if it's icy out there, that load might not be worth moving. It's still gonna be there, so be careful out there, man. Be careful. You don't want to wreck your truck, guys. Be careful. Be safe. I don't want to put any juju on anybody. I just see a lot of people taking over these bridges and pushing these trucks over these cold bridges, iced up bridges. So just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the area, and just be safe out there, guys. Thanks again for everyone that's joined us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.